Hello, everyone. Yo, yo. All right, I think this thing is working. Can you say one thing for me?
Hi.
There you go. Okay, I want to make sure
Okay.
your level is good enough. All right. I've actually never done a stream like this where it's like multiple things I'm juggling. Which is fine. We got it. Yeah, yo, everyone. Figured I'd come on here with someone who's 10 times better at assassin than I am.
I don't know about that.
I do. No. I wanted to bring someone on here, and I thought about Wukey because obviously being known as an Arachne specialist and just has played assassin for a long time, it's a lot more fun talking like with another person than just talking at the screen. Even though chat will obviously we'll try to answer chat when we can. But yeah, Wukey, thanks so much for joining, man. I appreciate it.
Oh yeah, absolutely. It's a blast. I'm super excited.
Yeah, this is like arguably my favorite day I've ever had with spoiler, and we've only gotten 2 cards, and that's saying something. I mean, I was super excited when we got all the ninja stuff for like Crouching Tiger, but this is like up there with me, honestly. Okay, sweet. Let's do this. We can turn this music like way down. I don't think we really need to have that much of music. We'll just turn it off for right now. I want to make sure they can hear you good. Okay. Yeah, guys. So we're gonna go over the 2 cards that were spoiled first. Kind of talk about them. Get obviously Wookie's general thoughts and just kind of talk about play lines. And then I built like 2 lists. Wookie's been messing with the list too. We'll talk about his world's list that he used at some side events and stuff, and just kind of talk about some card applications. I know I'm sharing my screen with Wukey right now, so he'll be able to see it as we're doing it, but we also have I have a bunch of maybe cards that I want to get your thought of. We didn't talk about it before we started live, but I have like you can add too, but I have I'd say like 9 to 10 cards, even cards I know probably aren't 100% like probably gonna be played, but it's just a good discussion point. So
Okay. Yeah. I have a few cards in mind as well.
Yeah, so we'll bring this one up. I know Wukey can see it on his screen. But yeah, so the first one was Corrosive Tendency. So initial thoughts on this card before we just get into it. Like, where'd your head go?
So I don't think it fixes Arachne, but I do think it helps in his action point economy significantly.
Mm-hmm.
And I think it gives him another exceedingly good blue to play in his deck,
Mm-hmm.
which we were kind of lacking on, is like fantastic blues. Like we had Surgical Extraction, like, and that was really it as like blues that have fantastic text on them.
Mm-hmm.
But Arachne was really, really bad at punishing add turns from your opponent. And like this allows you to actually use like 3 or 4 action points, which is really exciting.
Yeah, it's so funny that, and I'm not saying it's a negative thing. It's just really like ironic that I just watched the Flakes interview with James White and stuff, and James White was talking about how Fab 1.0 heroes had way too much like access to go again and stuff, and like this gives like so much things go again. But I think this is like where they want it to be. Like, I think they want, now maybe obviously Assassin is very polarizing for go again, but I think they want those turns to be like power turns, right? They don't want a deck to be able to just like vomit their hand. They want to be like, okay, if you want to do that, you have to really set it up. So like this card does that. But no, I agree with you. I do think, like we were talking about it back and forth in the Discord, I think my initial thought was at a floor, this card literally is just target banish a card from the top 3 of their deck. Like that's literally the worst absolute case scenario for this card. Like an okay floor for this card is, the card's gonna hit me. It's a 2-card hand. This and another card, like I don't know, Leave No Witnesses, whatever. Maybe not Leave because they probably block that. But like Plunder the Poor, a card that most of the time, if you only have one other card in hand, a lot of decks just won't respect you.
Exactly.
You could with Mask Repair Edition literally banish all 3 of those cards, and you could order them. So like if that matters, so you could literally off of Plunder the Poor banish 3 cards.
It's also really exciting to where you can target banish power cards instead of having to bottom them because your attack isn't going to hit.
No,
so, like you can see, I'm trying to think, like a Blood Rush Bellow on top. Or in Levia, that card is worth so many points of value. It literally turns her hand from, a 2-3 card 9 into a 2-3 card 18. whereas you can just target it, get a silver, which is good because a silver is half a life point in Arachne, and then worst comes to worst, you don't hit with your attack action, but hey, you still got your card, and they still traded at least 1 or 2 cards for your attack action anyway, so you're up on cards, and you target banish a power card out of their deck.
Yeah, exactly. And we were talking about it too. And this is obviously Christmas Slam, but that's what spoiler season's for. It's for Christmas Slam.
Yeah.
Is like my thought was at best, like your opponent gives you a little bit of space, and you have this in arsenal, and like you just because it's not that hard to have a couple 0 cost like contracts in hand.
Yeah.
But even a 4 card, and not even a 5, like with Tunic up, you play like a Plunder the Poor, and then you play us from arsenal, and then your next 2 cards are like Leave No Witness and Eradicate with Tunic or something like that, and stuff like that. I think is gonna be really cool because when you're in my mind, just thinking on the opponent side now, when I see this card played, if they give it go again, you're blocking because like you're not going to take 12 to the face and 5 cards banished off the top of your deck. That's just dumb. At least save some life, right? Even if you know for a fact they're probably still going to banish like 3-4 cards. So like if you can have an Eradicate or something super punishing at the end, then this becomes pretty nutty. You're doing like 12 to 16 damage, potentially in like a perfect world banishing like 10 cards, like 5 to 10 cards. It's pretty nuts.
That's crazy.
Yeah.
Another thing that's really exciting is I'm really disinterested in arsenaling blue Shred. Whenever I am playing the game, I draw it off like a Ponder token or something.
Shred's horrible.
I will I'll IP myself. I will just not arsenal the card because I've had quite a few situations where I've almost lost the game outright for arsenaling blue or yellow Shred. And this
IP
is just
yourself for the next 5 turns.
Yeah, this is just one less miss on a Ponder token, which is fantastic because Arachne loves Ponder tokens. Ponder tokens are so good in this deck because you get forced to block 12 a lot of the time, and if you're not pressuring your opponent back, you can get fatigued. I got fatigued one time over the weekend by a Fi. I just couldn't take tempo away from him, and Emberblade hits for a lot of damage, man.
Yeah, Emberblade's huge in that matchup.
He literally had 1 card left in his deck, and I had 0 cards left in my deck at the end of the game.
Jeez. Yeah, no, this card definitely does that, and like someone pointed out in chat and something we thought about, Mad Link saying like it's all assassin attacks get go again. So like, yes, it's a little bit wonky, and who knows, it's at least worth testing. But like stuff like Death Touch is now a lot better because it can get go again. Others
Infiltrate,
maybe,
it's
Infiltrate.
Interesting. It's like kind of a contract card.
I want it.
It adds value.
I wouldn't run it, but even like Virulent Touch, I'm just thinking like funny wonky stuff where like just for fun, even at an armory level. But yeah, the card, I think I made kind of an emphatic statement, and I'm not going to go that crazy on live, but like I do think this significantly closes the gap between Arachne and Uziri. I think now your Arachne and Uziri is literally just kind of like what style of play you want to play more, not what hero is better. I think they're both close to even with this card because now Arachne has an insane power turn possibility.
It's really exciting. And you're not entirely relying on Black Tech Whisperers for go again in your deck anymore, which is super fun because go again turns on Arachne are a blast. Making 4 to 6 silver in a turn, it's so much fun. So this really helps that. Yeah,
it does enable Payday, Madlink, I will admit, but Payday we'll talk about. Yeah, we'll talk about it. I want Payday to work so bad, but we'll have to see how that works. But yeah, so that's the first card that was spoiled, and obviously I spoiled this one. Not as flashy as the first one. However, we were talking about this card back and forth. When I first showed you this card, I showed this card to Wukey a couple days ago just to get his thoughts, kind of like inner circle, trying to figure out, get ideas bounced off so I could help speak to it better when I revealed it. But like initial thoughts for this card when you first saw it, Wukey.
I think it's really, really cool. It enables you to use Flick Knives a lot more, and Flick Knives is really powerful. It's just free damage. It misses on a few corner cases that I thought would be interesting. Like, I thought you could like trick a Kylori into trying stealing a silver and then sacking the silver. It doesn't work like that, unfortunately. But It helps you kill 2 health dragons. It's not quite on rate, but it's really close to being on rate, which is something that daggers aren't. And uh, I really like that. It just adds more damage to your 2 blue pitch turns. So like you have a lot of turns where you like attack with dagger, command and conquer. So it just adds another point of value where your nerve scalpel wasn't doing anything but a damage on those turns because they can't block with defense reactions anyway.
That makes sense.
It's exciting, and then there's a few matchups in the game where your second dagger doesn't matter. Like I'm thinking like Katsu, where your second dagger is mostly irrelevant. Like they'll present piles sometimes and have a few D reacts in their deck.
But if you're dagger, and you're kind of in trouble a little bit.
Yeah. But it just adds a little bit extra value because Katsu is, I think, fairly favored for Arachne. He kind of fatigues himself on accident, and if you know how to block properly in that matchup, I think it's really easy.
Yeah, you have to high roll.
You're just flush with silver in that matchup. You get silver off of every contract card you play, except for Slay the Scholars. And sometimes you get silver off of Slay the Scholars anyway if you high roll their Warmongers out of their deck.
And what I like about this card is like it's an instant destroy 2 silver you control, right? Yeah. It's not a started turn. So like there's a whole lot of things we could talk about this card. I stand by what I said with you right before we went live, is that this is a toolbox card. Yeah. But I think the instant's kind of cool because let's say you start the turn with 2 silver and you want to bring Paradisian back. Because when I first saw this card, I was like, man, we're going to have to be silver hungry. Like you're going to be wanting, if you want to bring everything back, you're going to be making silver a lot. And like to me, I want to, even as much as I love this card, and I'm going to force it because it's my card, I want to bring Paradisian and Black Tech back first, right? Obviously. Yeah, but good cards. With it being instant, like if you start the turn with 2 silver, and then, you have a go wide turn with the first card we just talked about, and you make 3 or 4 silver, and this card's gone, right? Already at the start of turn, you can bring it back mid-turn, right?
You could even throw it and bring it back in the same turn.
Correct.
So you can you can attack with it, and then attack with something else, and throw it, and attack with it again because it's a new object.
Yep.
So if you're just flush with resources on this turn, you can represent a lot of extra damage. Like that's 5 extra damage from your weapon on a turn that you just had 2 blues.
Yeah, no, it has so much, and the utility aspect of it too, like we were talking about, is like anything with ward, like this is just free. Flick this as much as you want. Big. Like Prism's Angels, if Prism ever becomes relevant, and it's Flesh and Blood, and it's Light Illusionist, so she'll be relevant at some point. Yeah, it'll happen. Like the Cell Swords, we don't know how good Kasai is going to be yet, but this like hits Cell Swords perfectly. Now you can like take out an entire Cell Sword with 1 dagger. 2 health dragons, Caloria. There's another one. Yeah. One more, and then like Sand Cover, which like we literally saw how important that was for like Ben Dodd in the finals at Melbourne. Like how much of a risk he had to take to like pop those Sand Covers. Like now it's not as much of a risk. Granted, it's Usury, it's a little bit harder to make silver, but it's just an example of like if he had this dagger, he's like, all right, I'll pop it. I'll just bring it back, hopefully. Stuff like that. So anything with ward just honestly hates seeing this dagger, to be honest.
Yeah, it's another interesting toolbox in the toolbox of assassin daggers, and I think it's a really cool design space that they're going into, with the assassin daggers being like, you kind of can prep your daggers for each matchup that you're playing. So I'm really excited, and the fact that you get to throw your knives more often is so cool because I love flick knives. I think it's such a fun card, but the fact that you maybe can get 3 damage off of your flick knives in a match, and that's if you can hit with a concealed blade, which is trouble in its own right.
Yeah, exactly.
Blade. This is just super fun to me because you do find yourself flush with silver in some matchups, and then you just don't have anything to do with it, like to the point that you're just activating black text to buy it back on your next turn, not even using the go again.
Yeah, it has some cool stuff, and I think a lot of people want this to be aggro because it just they're like 2, yes, but like 2 for 2 with no on hit is bad. But if you're using this for everything else, I think that's where the use. I mean, it's a Majestic for a reason. I know we have had like some Majestics that don't feel like Majestics, but I think like especially the Assassin class and being the expansion slot, like they have a thought idea behind this card. We just gotta play with it and figure it out.
I think it's super exciting, and it is not once per turn to buy it back which is also cool
Yeah.
because you can like buy it back at the beginning of your combat chain and buy it back at the end of your combat chain again. So
Hmm.
yeah, there's a lot of value to be gained out of this card, and I love value.
Yeah,
So
exactly.
I am excited for Graven Call. I'm excited to give it a try, and I did brew up an aggro deck list.
Hmm.
There's maybe a couple extra cards that are on my mind for that deck, but Graven Call is one of the daggers I will be representing in that deck.
Yeah, for sure. Yeah, and I was gonna get in a couple deck lists here. First, I wanted to shout you out. Obviously, you attended Worlds and did some side event stuff, and this was
Yeah.
your Arachne list. Hopefully, it popped up for me because my stream is behind. Yeah, it did. Okay. But yeah, just give me your general thoughts on how the event was. We've been hearing a lot of different things from people, but people said it was pretty nutty with how many people were there, and the side
Yeah.
events specifically were nutty because of those sigils and everything else going on. So like, how was your World's experience? How did the deck play? How did it feel? And just overall thoughts about the event.
So my World's experience was fantastic. I
Mm-hmm.
lost 4 games total playing this deck list across the entire weekend.
Jeez.
I lost 1 to Fi, 1 to Icelander, 1 to Prism in Blitz.
Oh,
That matchup seems unwinnable. And
yeah.
I'm trying to remember 1 to a Dromai.
Okay.
This is the deck list I played. I was happy with it. I was actually 2 cards short for a couple of the events I played because Yuanji was borrowing my Warmongers in Worlds, so I was
That's
just
funny.
78 cards for 2 events. But this is the deck list I played. I don't like the spot Assassins are in currently. I
Mhm.
don't think it's a good deck choice, unfortunately, but my Icelander deck I also brought got torn apart for scraps. So this was what I was left with.
Mhm.
I fatigued most of the opponents I played against, which is where I wanted to be. I played a lot of long games, played a lot of Flesh and Blood, and had a fantastic time. I cast so many Command and Conquers and Leave No Witnesses, which is where you want to be. So
Mhm.
yeah, I had a lot of fun. The events went well for me, and I got 4 sigils on the weekend, so
Yeah, that's
can't be
dope.
sad about that. Yeah.
No, yeah, and I know Dallas didn't go quite how you wanted. I know
Yeah.
getting over there was pretty fun. Just like, especially playing side events because like it's not pressure. Like you just want to have fun with
Mhm.
it, and people are usually generally friendly there. Obviously in the side events because it's like less. I mean, stuff's on the line, but not as much on the line.
Yeah.
What's the one contraband for? Is that just to bring back like a codex? I'm assuming, or
So Contraband is for the Dromai matchup.
okay.
It's a popper, so
Mm-hmm.
you want to pop with it the first time you see it, and then it's in your graveyard.
Mm-hmm.
And then later on in the game, either off of tunic counters or double blues, you get to go dagger a dragon, like an Ashwing,
Mm-hmm.
codex back Contraband, hit another dragon with Contraband, put that codex back on top of your deck,
Okay.
ponder into that codex and arsenal it, and you lose 0 cards total to kill a dragon, to kill 2 dragons, and set up the loop again.
Oh,
So
okay.
you spend 0 cards for one of their cards, basically.
Mm-hmm. That's actually
Um,
really smart.
it's something I'm trying out. I was on like 3 contrabands once. That
Mm-hmm.
wasn't great. The 1 contraband feels like the sweet spot. It just
Mm-hmm.
replaced 1 death touch. It was just popper for popper. It is a 2 block, which is a big downside
Yeah.
to the card. It's why you can't play it in a lot of matchups. I also play it into Bravo just because like it's a 6 power card
Mm-hmm.
and it has an on hit, so it kind of threatens them. But I was playing 3 copies in Battle Hardened St. Louis. I got to do a couple really interesting things. Like I played against a Viscerai and put a Warmongers back on top of my deck. That
Oh
was
wow.
funny. Uh, but I think the card has a bit of interesting space, and obviously Dromais are playing it for the mirror in some cases
Mm-hmm.
because it just hits. So you can hit dragons with it. And all your contract cards lose value whenever you're hitting dragons with them because you're not banishing a card or threatening a card banish.
Mm-hmm.
So this is a card that has actual upside while hitting dragons, was my thought process behind it.
That makes
And
sense.
it worked in one game. It didn't work in the other game
Yeah.
that I played against Dromai.
That's how
But
one ofs are though. Either
I'm
they
happy with
yeah.
it. And it's another way to make Codex a better toolbox card.
Mm-hmm.
Which, like, wow, Codex is a good card. Who would have thought? But it is a legitimately good way to improve the value of your Codex in a matchup where Codex isn't great.
Mm-hmm. No, I agree, you mentioned Warmongers too, and I wanted to ask you about this card too. Not that's it. I guess yes, how it performed, but like post Lexi, right? We're not in a Lexi meta anymore. I think our blues are actually going to start to be very contested, which I don't think we would have said 2 months ago, right? Like, there's actually a lot of like competition for the blue slot now because, you know, do you keep shreds, surgicals? I think surgicals honestly the only blue that's like this will not leave the deck, but
it's uncuttable.
But other than that, like, what is your thoughts on Warmongers post Lexi? I mean, Viscerai's big one, right? Zillion's a big one, but like, what's your thoughts on it overall?
So I like Warmongers. I did notice I was blocking with it a lot more. Like, it was relevant in a lot less matchups. I didn't play an Azalea at all on the weekend. I assume it's still just Time Walk in that matchup, which is nice because that's one of the harder matchups. That's why Unmovable is in the deck. That's why Oasis is in the deck. I did play against a Riptide over the weekend. It was the first time I'd ever played that matchup, so that was fun. It was very good in that matchup because he can't play his buffs for his arrows.
Yeah, Riptide
doesn't get his free arsenal.
It's truly a time walk against Riptide, unless they're on Dreadbore. That kind of helps a little bit, but other than that, it sucks.
Other than that, I was blocking with it a lot. I was not valuing it in my deck, so I wasn't pitching it very often. I think it still deserves a slot in the deck currently.
Yeah.
Like, I think it is better than Blue Shred, and I think it's about even with like Blue Plunder the Poor. I don't generally like the 0-cost 2 attack contract cards because you can never make them a breakpoint, whereas the 1-cost cards you can turn into a breakpoint after a Spider's Bite. You know, you attack with Spider's Bite, and then their attacks block for 1 less, so you come in for 3, they can't block it out with 1 card. That's why I like those cards. I value them a little bit more. But Plunder the Poor is obviously a better 1-card hand than Annihilate the Armed when it comes to being a blue. I don't know. I think Warmongers is good. If Viscerai ever becomes playable again, it's going to be good into him.
Yeah.
It
may end up being good too into some of the Warriors coming up too, because a lot of them like to play pumps and stuff like that. Not all of them, but
I think it's
them.
very good into Kasai.
Oh yeah, Kasai.
I think Blade Runner is her best card, and if you turn off Blade Runner in that matchup, her turns become really clunky.
Well, yeah, so, Blade Runner attack reaction, but you will turn off Outland Skirmish and Sharpened Steel.
It's Blade Runner
attack reaction. No, you're good. No, you're good. I know someone's gonna say in chat. That's the only reason I brought it up.
It turns off her cracking her gold and attacking with a sword.
That too, yeah. So yeah, and it would turn off. Yeah, with her, it turns off her being able to pump her first saber, which honestly, at least from my Blitz experience, like being able to play Outland Skirmish and stuff like that is huge. So yeah, no, it'll be interesting to see. I mean, we can kind of talk about it now that we talked about. Oh, go ahead.
Yeah,
go ahead. Of course.
It is not an attack action. It is just a generic action. So it doesn't buff Centauri Saber or get buffed by Bolton. Bolton is actually really scary. That deck is super good. People need to stop sleeping on him. The second Icelander release, that dude is terrifying.
Yeah.
And it doesn't buff the swords or any of attacks when you block with it, which is relevant. So that is another point to the card.
Yeah, Bolton, I feel like I either just slowly fatigue him because he doesn't get his stuff out early, or I just get absolutely destroyed. Even on like a Rockney, like I'm like, oh my gosh, dude.
Especially since I'm not playing Frailty Trap anymore. The Lumina's turns become a lot more scary.
Yeah, I had a Bolton quit on me like 2 days ago because first Saber, he was on Sabers, and first Saber I Oasis off Tunic. Second Saber I Frailty Trapped, and he just quit. I was like, okay,
it's like 9 points of value off of 1 card when you do it. I did Battle Hardened St. Louis, and
exactly.
It's so gross.
But yeah, so we'll just get into talking about some of the new stuff. I brought up a list here, and we'll bring up one here, and then I'll look back in our chat and bring up one of your aggro lists. But this is one I brought that's like mainly contract focused. For anyone that's in chat, just think if you see Orbalo cast, that's the new dagger. I kept these two, but that's February. That man has a normal working job, so he hasn't updated everything. God bless his soul. But once he does, like I'm even checking just to make sure. Yeah, he hasn't yet, which is totally fine. I do not expect him to do it that fast. But that's that. And then like I told you before the stream, blue cut to the chase is the slot I currently have, and you have blue shred for the new blue. So I just want to keep it a 0 cost blue to try to make ratios the same. But yeah, like for me, and I'll get what your thoughts are on it. I kept a lot of it's the same. What I think you have to do obviously is like stuff has to hit a lot more, and you want stuff to hit a lot more. So like I noticed like the Melbourne list had 2 razors in there. Yeah, they even had a pummel too. But I'm trying to sneak in Razor into the list. I think Death Touch, it already was in the list most of the time, but I think it's even better now because you can give it go again. And then stuff like Hurl. I've seen Hurl, like Alters does Hurl in his sideboard and stuff for his aggro plan, but I think Hurl just becomes a main board card now, personally. Maybe not, but I think, like, I don't know why you wouldn't. I mean, the 2 block does feel a little bad, but being able to do like Hurl into like a contract, give the contract go again, do something like you just have some pretty nutty turns. Also hitting with that dagger. But yeah, most of the list was the same. I mean, the only thing I would change is like I said, Blue Cut to the Chase is the new 0 cost, is Corrosion. And sideboard, I just put Ram stuff, and we'll talk about the maybes. But I didn't know what your thoughts are. The new card, I think you can do it 2 ways. You can go like super aggro, right, with like bleed outs, and we'll talk about those in a little bit and stuff like that. Or you can go just like straight contract, try to make a crap ton of silver, flick knives, and just like try to damage your opponent to death, basically.
I'm interested to see how Assassin is going to go. Obviously, we haven't seen all of the new cards come out.
Yeah.
But historically, Guardian is not a great matchup for Arachne himself. It's like fine for Azuri because she can aggro him down. But I'm excited to see the Warriors because Warrior is always such a fun matchup. Right? It always goes long. It's always a blast. And since we're gaining so much value in this set, it seems you get to make so much more silver in that matchup, gain so many more life points off of your armor that you're buying back. I don't know what the correct build is going to be right now. Obviously, we don't have all the information, but these 2 new cards add a lot, and I think it's going to be a lot of fun. I think even bigger than that, gains a lot of stocks.
Yeah, me and you both had this card. Yeah.
Because even with Hurl, you can pay the additional cost, deal the 1, and then play even bigger than that before damage. Get your Quicken token, come in with a contract, come in with another contract. There's a lot of fun things to be had with Assassin, which is great because Assassin's already so much fun.
Yeah, this was a thought process I had just for like aggro down Assassin. Like you're not like the blue is like nice to have, but you're not really worried too much about making a ton of silver. Like for me, it was like give and take, Hurl, bleed out. Now it's very minute, and this card probably is like the last one I would put in, honestly. But it's just a fun thought of like being able to, once the dagger comes back, if you dagger 1 time, then it's free, right? And and so there's a lot of cool stuff I think you could do for the maybe. Like it's on this list. I had a bunch of maybe cards. Like bleed out was one, even bigger than that. Give and take, smashing good time, I think might end up being more useful because I think dash is just going to be dash.
Interesting to note though, current contract Arachne has a really bad time into dash because she can just make the pistol. Both being able to include smashing good time in your deck and being able to target banish off the top of their deck can give you a lot easier of a time, because once you get rid of 1 or 2 of those pistol items, you face down so much less damage that you can actually counter pressure her, because while she's getting those set up, you actually keep life totals fairly even throughout the game. It's just once she gets the pistol set up that you just bleed out. So being able to target banish, being able to target banish, and then Assassin's really good at making cards hit. So smashing good time gets a lot of value in that matchup.
Yeah, I think smashing good time's one, and all these blues. This is what I meant by like blues are now contested, and yes, some of these I think are more of probably not great, but I want to try them type thing. Like I think that like Concealed Blade, I actually think has a slot now.
Yeah, I think the card's powerful.
Yeah, I think the card's really good. Like, because you could do 1 of 2 things. You could start with Graves Call in your main board, or you could just put it in the side, flick the first time you need something. Like before, it was like early game. You're like, okay, I don't want to flick knives here because like, I don't want to lose this dagger for late game. I don't have a dagger inside that I want to bring in. But now you can, like, no, I'll just conceal blade and bring in grave, and now I have a, a dagger that I can keep recurring. Or you can just use concealed for other stuff. And I also think it's funny, Arachne's going to want cards to hit even more now, like even more than he used to. So I think concealed is going to be probably the most contested blue that's not typically used, that now may be used.
The interesting thing I think about concealed blade is it is just lunging press.
Yeah.
And like lunging press is a playable card. It's lunging press.
We have Bravos using lunging press, for God's sakes.
It can't target your command and conquer, which is a big downside.
Yeah.
But it can target, leave no witnesses, surgical extraction. So like even if you're not buying back a dagger, the card can still be relevant because people like to perfect block on those cards.
Mm-hmm.
And it also blocks for 3, and like 3 blocks for good. I love blocking.
Yeah,
blocking
exactly.
is so much fun. And it's just another powerful blue that you can play in your deck.
Mm-hmm.
So I like Concealed Blade. I do think the card is underplayed slightly. Obviously, I'm not playing it now, but I don't really have a reason to.
Yeah, exactly.
And now with Graven Call, like you said, you can start with Nerve Scalpel in play, Flick Knives, Sink Below, and then on the next turn, you come back and you Concealed Blade, you get your Graven Call, you throw that knife, and then you buy it back with the silver you've made because you've been hitting a lot more.
Yeah, 2 more damage plus an on-hit plus that. Yeah, exactly. So you can... The damage stacks up eventually, right? Like it's gonna, and sometimes there's been so many games in Arachne where like you're almost at the finish line. I think cards like that will help a lot.
You can actually like Flick Knives become so relevant in the late game.
Mm-hmm.
And you like you're trying to get your opponent to 2. Like you can start throwing your knives way earlier, like at 4 life, 5 life. If you have access silver, you can just start throwing your knives, and it becomes unblockable damage that they will just die to.
Yeah, especially even like in one turn, like being able. I mean, it's Flick Knives once per turn, right?
Flick Knives is once per turn.
Yeah, God, that would be insane because you could flick it, buy it back, and then flick it again. The next whatever.
Yeah, and that'd be on the same chain link itself because it's an instant.
Now it makes sense why they do things the way they do. Concealed Blade I think is probably the most playable blue that's not in a normal list. These 3, we'll save this guy for last because I already know this is gonna be the funny one. The one that's least likely, but I want to so bad is Stab Wound. I know this is I actually like this in Fi just because most time it's a 0 for 4, but especially in Kadachi Fi. But this card's interesting because if it said equal to damage similar to like Bleed Out does, then I think this would actually be really playable. Because then all you gotta do is hit with Grave 1 time, and all of a sudden it's a 0 for 4.
Yeah.
But since it's hit, it's a little bit different.
It does count the daggers you Flick Knife.
Yeah.
Because they have hit.
Mm-hmm.
So
True.
you can add 1 additional there. I see this card as like the blue Salt the Wound. When I played it in Fi. You got to play Rainbow Salt the Wound, which is cool because you have Lava Burst Salt the Wound and now Stab Wound.
Oh, true.
The reason I don't think it's great in Arachne is the fact that you're lacking Tiger Stripe Shuko.
Yeah.
Which, like, you have Flick Knives, which is another powerful piece of equipment, but, like, Tiger Stripe Shuko just adds so much to this card. And the fact that we're lacking that, which, like, good. That card would be crazy in Assassin. You could do some interesting builds with that. It's also just a 2-block armor piece, which, like, Assassin doesn't have. But...
yeah, exactly. And we like even use
can have.
Yeah. Well, like you said, I don't even think about this. This is why I told you Bear Assassin's player. The reason I run like Annihilate the Armed, and I even used to run Rob the Rich at blue, was solely because I wanted to get rid of 3 health dragons. Like that was my whole reason, because there's so many times where they had a 3 health, a Jeremiah had a 3 health dragon, and I have Plunder the Poor, and I'm like, I can't kill the dragon, but now off Tunic I can kill a 3 health dragon. But like you said, like the fact that this doesn't get buffed by Shuko to 3, I didn't even think about how 3 is technically a breakpoint at blue if you've daggered prior. So that actually makes a lot of sense. So yeah, no, it's just a fun blue to think about. At least that what I was saying in the purple Discord was, at least people are talking about it now. The fact that the hero is getting to a point now where you can actually think about it, even if it's not the best decision. Like before, it was like, nope, these are the best cards. You have to run these. Like, now it's like, oh, let's try something else. Let's try something different, which is where I think they want the game to go. They want people to try different things.
Like all the dagger cards aren't just like silly anymore.
Yeah, exactly. No, they're actually making sense. Yeah, when that got released with the Crouching Tiger stuff and like Plunge and this is cool draft cards, but now they're like, no, we're actually trying to make it to where people keep hurling daggers at each other. Knives Out is the one that I think is cool. I could see, so like I just love this card in general. One, because I play an Ira, because in Ira it's just stupid because it's a 0 for. I mean, Ira, if you play it on Chain Link 1, the first dagger hits for 2, your second dagger hits for 3. So off 2 blues, you're attacking for 5 with your Kodachis. But I could see this at like a 1 of. Obviously, you're just trying to have fun and do tech stuff because this card isn't going to move the needle on winning you games. But I do think like if you're attacking with Grave for 2, right, and they block 2, like with the 2 block, like this gets you over the top, right? And then your next one could possibly be more. I don't know. It's probably definitely not going to go over other blues, but it's a fun card to try at least just for the heck of it.
Maybe you could do an interesting pitch stack plan. And then play 3 of them in a turn and attack for 4 and 5 with your daggers.
Yeah.
I don't know how powerful that is.
No, exactly. Yeah, it's more fun than anything. But
it's something you could do. I originally put it in my aggro list, and then I was like, "What is this card doing? What is it actually doing here?" It doesn't really fix the daggers because if they're gonna give a card to your dagger, you're happy.
No, exactly. Yep.
And this doesn't make it a break point over any cards unless it's a Graven Call with a counter and they're blocking with a 2 block.
No, yeah.
And then you're not gaining an on hit for that happening except for, bleed out or stab wound.
One day when they give me a Shadow Ninja that throws daggers, this card will be great.
Yeah.
No, I don't think it's going to be in the Bliss, but it's a fun card to have. And honestly, sorry, I'm time issue. If I'm not at a big event and I'm playing a Rockney, like some people are different. If I'm playing a hero like a Rockney, I'm at an Armory. I'm gonna put a 1 of these just because it's funny.
Yeah, you're already playing a silly guy. Might as well make it the knife silly guy.
That's what I've been trying to do. Like
it's fun I think it's fun at an Armory level. So yeah,
no, that's what I've been trying to do.
Play around. Flesh and Blood's fun.
No, on my channel specifically, this is a slight tangent, but like I've been trying to like tell people, like, because like we're all so competitively minded in this game, and not every list has to be a calling, right? Like you can like I've told people before, and I'll go back to the conversation after this. Is like I used to play a lot of My Hero Academia TCG, and like in that game, like at locals, people would just bring stupid pet decks. Like Snipe is considered the worst deck in that game. And one of the best players in our area in Dallas, who's actually like 8th in the world, brought Snipe for like 4 straight weeks. He's like, I just want to play Snipe. It's fun. And like, you don't see that as much in Flesh and Blood. I'm not like dogging on the community because it's great, but like, I want people to do that more. So like, yeah, if you're going to an Armory, put a 1 of Knives Out or a 1 of Stab Wound. I don't know. Have some fun with it. Especially like with this card. This card I've already seen, including myself, like 9-10 people in Discord be like, "Payday playable?" ?
I don't know. It really, like, I make the joke a lot. I tweeted earlier in response to your tweet showing off the new specialization. I was like, another titanium bauble, let's go. I think this card is legitimately titanium bauble. I don't think it has very much text on it. If it was an attack reaction that said the next time you complete a contract, make 4 silvers, I think it'd be playable. But the fact that you're using an action point on this card makes me really disincentivized to play it.
Yeah, because and not in a Christmas land. We'll talk about like the normal best case scenario is you play a 0 cost, unassuming 0 cost contract card that people don't normally block, especially in like the 5 matchup. You play a freaking Plunder the Poor, like, okay, send 4 damage at me. I don't give a crap. And then you pop black text, and then you play this. So
you're
like
losing that game.
Yeah, exactly. So you basically just pop black text to get enough money, get enough money to just get your black tech back plus 2 silver, which you may or may not even need at the moment. I'm waiting. I said it in the Discord, and I truly do mean this. I hope one day, if anyone from LSS is taking the 5 minutes to watch this, make a card that says something along the lines, it doesn't have to be exactly this, of when this attacks, if it hits, destroy X silver. Deal damage to the hero equal to the amount of silver destroyed, or something along those lines, where, like, I don't know how it would read, but something where I can combo you with my silver. I think if they do something like that, where maybe you're just playing for like a big combo turn, or something like overpower, right? Like similar to how Teklo's cards are, where it's like if you control 6 or more silver, this gains dominate and +3 or something like that, right? I don't know. Obviously, I'm randomly spitballing, but if you had something where you be like, okay, I want to generate as much silver as possible, I'm not going to pop it until I need to, then I think this card becomes pretty good. But until then, I think, it's just kind of like a, again, fun one of you play at an armory, but that's about it.
Honestly, I think the best case for this card is that it's a blue block 3. Like, it is Titanium Bauble, and like that's not the worst place to be, is Titanium Bauble. But I would hate to spend an action point on this card, honestly.
No, yeah.
When I could attack with a blue contract card. I would much rather attack for 4 with Plunder the Poor and black tech a blue Plunder the Poor afterwards.
No,
that would, like, if you mask it, that makes 3 silver. You're only losing 1 silver in that, especially against Fi, because he's not going to block 6 damage.
No, unless it's like Eradicate or Surgical. They're just like, that's cool. Have a nice day.
Or leave no witnesses.
Yeah, maybe leave if they have like a really key power card. Yeah. Payday's interesting. The blue slot definitely becomes a lot more contested because now you have 3 more. I think in Seal Blade, maybe not a 3 of, but I think you run like a 2 of that card, or there's potential to run a 2 of.
I think it's definitely the front runner of the blues that aren't currently being played.
Yeah, no, I agree. And then the last maybe I had in here just for fun conversation. I think Tunic's obviously always going to be better. But if you're running a hyper aggro list where you're, with bleed outs and hurls and everything else, like I could see this if you're running like razors. I also have the extended art, so I just want to make this card playable. I don't know how, but no,
So I do like Redback Shroud a lot because it has that same text where you can buy it back. So like every 2 silver becomes a life point. The issue I see with Redback Shroud is your really powerful attack reactions all cost 0. Outside of Razor Reflex. I do think the card is powerful with Razor Reflex, and I do think that the Tunic counter itself in Arachne is really overloaded. Like, I don't know the last time in game that I had a Tunic counter on 3 for more than 2 turns.
Yeah,
like I'm always using that thing. That thing is used every time it goes to 3, which is like great because Tunic counter efficiency is really important. But I don't see myself using Redback Shroud every 3 turns.
No, I can agree with that, especially when you have a lot of, not every list, but a lot of lists are running 9 of this card now. Yeah. It seems that way. I think 1, because it has the highest silver chance, one of the highest, but 2, Tunic is insane. Like yellow annihilates a break point right off Tunic, so super good. And then the classic dagger Spider's Bite into Tunic Command and Conquer.
It's so good. It's my favorite play in Flesh and Blood.
Yeah, no, it feels like it's only 7 damage, but it feels like you're doing like 12. It really does. Yeah. It's so bad. Yeah, no, I agree. It's cut to the chase. Like, we're probably only going to run the reds, is my guess. Going forward. People run the blues. I run the blues just because in this aggro meta, people like to exact block a lot more. Yeah. Back in like the Oldheim time frame, where you had a lot more tankier decks, like this card was terrible, but now it's a lot better, I think. Yeah, no, I don't think the deck functionally changes insane, but I do think, like, especially early on, you're going to get a lot of people just trying fun stuff, right?
Yeah.
But yeah.
And then they're going to fall in love with the hero because he is so much fun.
Yeah, exactly. And let me try to find yours really fast, if you're okay with me bringing it up.
Yeah, absolutely. Talk about some aggro builds.
Yeah, right. So this is what you came up with. So I want you to walk me through this. Obviously, we had some similarities, but you have some cool stuff in here. Come to Fight, which I've seen like altars have and stuff, but not a ton.
Yeah.
You have this card. We'll talk about this one here in a second.
Yeah.
That one's pretty nutty. But yeah, take me through this list. What were your thoughts?
Okay, so this is only 79 cards. Graven Call would be the 80th card, and it would be the one I would probably be presenting in my starting. My thought process was that we really want to use our blue pitches efficiently. So that's what Come to Fight is. I saw you had Nimbleism in your list.
Yeah.
Come to Fight is the same slot as Nimbleism for me, but I really wanted to be buffing Bleed Out. I really wanted to be buffing Command and Conquer.
Yep. Non-power Command and Conquer feels good.
Yeah, it feels really good.
Yep.
And that's one blue pitch, right? So you get to pitch a blue, Come to Fight, Command and Conquer for 9. Command and Conquer is powerful, obviously. 7 power Leave No Witnesses is really strong.
Oh yeah.
The thought process behind Premeditate is Ponder tokens are so good.
Yeah.
I love Ponder tokens in this deck. I love arsenaling attacks. So Premeditate allows you to push an arsenaled Command and Conquer to 9 on hit, gain a Ponder. That's powerful. It allows it just like +3 is so powerful with these assassin cards because they're already slightly above rate. And I like Premeditate. I don't know if it's the right pick, but you can have like a 2-card hand where you go Premeditate, Codex of Frailty, and actually get to pick your arsenal for once. Or instead of taking an intellect penalty sometimes. I was trying to fit in Codex of Bloodrot and Death Touches for that kind of aggro plan. I landed on this build instead just because I like the card consistency a little bit more.
That makes sense.
The sideboard, I couldn't find a spot for the Razors to fit in. I really like them in the main board, but it overloads the Tunic a little bit more.
It does, yeah. Your Tunic's got to be really, especially Come to Fight, you're always going to wind up for that. Or Annihilate the Armed. Yeah.
Yeah.
Nope.
So I haven't played any games with this deck
yet.
Yeah,
it's just fun.
This
is just for fun.
Town a couple days ago, so I haven't really touched my cards at all. I don't even own Premeditates, I don't think.
I have one extra. I'll send it to you.
I think the card is really powerful. It also you can buffs Eradicate to 7, and you can set up some really interesting lines where you double buff cards, and I like Ponder tokens. Drawing cards is good, so Premeditate allowing you to draw an extra card is powerful.
No, yeah, we had one local who we were talking about Uziri specifically, and they mentioned like it didn't make their list, but they were talking about how Premeditate felt like a good idea for Uziri because there's so many times, not so many, there's a good amount of times in Uziri where you have a shakedown or you have a Command and Conquer or you have now already dead, a 6 power, right? And you're like, I don't want to arsenal this card because I want to flip it, right? Like it feels like such a waste to arsenal a 6 power in Uziri. You hate it. But Pre-Med fixes that because now that's a 9 power shakedown that you can flick knife, or now it's a a 9 power Command Conquer, 9 power already dead, whatever the case may be, right? So I do think it comes. I don't think it's good or bad. I think it literally comes down to like play style, right? Some people like the arsenal, like really key cards. Also, if you like your list here, at least initially you're just throwing stuff at the wall and then you're gonna have fun with it later, but like you don't have D-reacts in this list, you have sync in the side, so like you're not always looking to arsenal a D-react in this style of list like you are other stuff. So, and like you said, I think you said it, and then a buddy, I cannot pronounce his name, I'm just gonna call him ET, who's in our local area, plays he went 4-3 at Dallas for the Rock and he did really well, at least for his standards. Like he was super happy with it. He was talking about how like he tries to minimize codex misses as much as humanly possible, and you've talked about that, right? Like you don't want to codex and then you draw into a shred, or codex and you feel bad. It sucks. So like anything that you can do to help, like here, like you don't really have a miss for codex other than these 6 shreds.
The shreds and Concealed Blade can be a miss because it can only target assassin attacks. I almost lost a game against Alexi because like I arsenaled a Concealed Blade. And then I just like drew Command and Conquer E-Strikes for a couple turns, and I was like, I can't get this card out of my arsenal at all.
That sucks. But yeah, no, there's going to be some interesting stuff here. I think you could even run Arachne similar to hybrid like Uziri, where you just run like the thing. What sucks is if you want to do like a super mid or super like hybrid of aggro contract, like you'd want to run like Ravenous Rabble, right? But every time I want to put in Ravenous Rabble, I'm like, in the dagger plan, I also need 18 blue. You want around 15, 18 blues in your list. I think the least good performing Arachne list I've seen had like 15. I run 18, sometimes run 21. I don't know why. I always seem to end up there. And Rabble, if you have more than 12 blues, I'm always a big proponent of don't run Rabble. But yeah,
I generally land around 16 blues.
Mm-hmm.
That's just what I land on. The 15 being the 3 ofs and the 1 Regicide.
Mm-hmm.
Not playing Regicide in this list. That's not really the plan. The plan in Drama is to kill her, which is an interesting plan. I don't think it works, but I think this deck is significantly better into decks like Bravo and Dash, where they're gonna board for pistol plan or they're gonna try and block you out. And you're just going to be presenting bigger numbers into them, and bigger numbers are good. So that was my general thought process. Back to entirely sacrificing the Dromai matchup instead of trying to fix it and trying to kill your opponent.
Yeah, it's not Arachne, but I was watching Ray on HitFX stream and her stream, and she was talking about Prism, like because she was saying how like she thinks Prism slept on a lot more, Prism 2.0, and she's like, I'm not going to try to. She's like, Prism's not real, so I'm not going to tech for that with poppers. And she's like, in Dromai, I'm just going to dodge it. If I don't dodge it, I lose.
Dodge your bad matchups, people.
Yeah,
that's how you win events.
Well, it's so funny. We were talking about that in our local Discord. This is a tangent. We'll get back to it. But like, it's like good player. Like a lot of good players will just say, okay, I want to. If you're not picking the best deck, do you pick something that is generally equal to everything? Which, in my opinion, was Dash. Like the last couple of metas, where she has no good matchups, but no bad matchups really. It's really everything's within the 45-55 zone. Or do you say Arachne, where even though Arachne's lower on the tier list, like Arachne's like there's like 4 or 5 matchups I just win, but then there's like 2 where if I play them I'll just concede and we go get something to eat together. You know what I mean? So it's like
go use the bathroom.
Yeah, which one do you do?
Reset your mental, which is huge, honestly, in tournament. You're playing for 8 hours.
Yeah, exactly.
So resetting your mental is a really strong point, especially because you're playing 45-minute games with Arachne
every time. Yeah,
games.
Exactly.
So being able to take a break is actually huge. Currently, I think he's in a bad spot.
Yeah, currently, yeah.
I think he's getting a lot of help with this new card. Like, it's not gonna fix him. He's not solved anymore. He's not top tier. But it does help a lot.
No, yeah, I don't think it helps his bad matchups, honestly, at all. Like, Ice Slinger doesn't help at all. She's going to disrupt you anyway. Dromai, it can help clear dragons, right? Like, if you had a go wide, clear 3 dragons standpoint. So it could help with that. But, like, it probably doesn't move the needle a ton. It just helps you get out of the oh shit moment, right? If you have to. But I think what that card does is it raises the bar for all the other matchups for the most part. Like every other matchup gets a little bit better. And for Arachne, like that's all a couple players have said like he's not terrible. He's just really bad into the top decks, right? So it's like
you're really good into the meta countering decks. Like you're good into ninjas and Azalea. I think.
Oh yeah, if Azalea doesn't high roll, I think you're good. Yeah. She has to high roll really to win, honestly. Especially if you're on unmovables
really help that matchup.
Yeah, I agree.
And being able to just, a new card being able to like remove her powerful cards from her deck, it's really nice. Or being able to just like that deck can't block. She can't. So being able to play 2 good contract cards and then leave no witnesses all the way at the end of the turn, like you've already declared no blocks twice and taken 8 from 2 0-for-4s, and now I'm threatening your arsenal. I think it helps that matchup a ton. And then having go wide turns against Bravo is insane.
Oh yeah, no, that I think it does help that matchup actually. And there is matchups like, depending on like how it goes, like even like I don't know, I'm just gonna say a random one, like Dorinthia, she hits you for 10, right? And you're like, okay, I'm gonna give you a counter. I'm gonna keep all 5 cards, and I'm about to hit you for 16 with Go Again, right? Like ending
Yeah.
on like an Eradicate. Like that's honestly like when you think about obviously implied value, right? You think about like on a good turn, like leave no witness into plunder, into slay, into tunic eradicate. Like 16 damage turn, potentially threatening 10 cards out of their deck. Like the amount of value, if you're going to use the math value that Flesh and Blood players use, like you're like 20, 30 value potentially, right?
Yeah.
Like in a deck. So it's pretty nuts. It allows him to have basically his like own little power turn, which
he was severely lacking. Like the only power turns you really had were like Dagger, Codex, Command and Conquer. Like that was it. That was your best turn that you could possibly present. Outside of like Eradicate, Shred. You know, like
I think the most I've ever
like that happening.
Yeah, damage wise, I think the best I've ever had is like when I had like 2 0 costs and 2 cut to the chases, and like you do 7 pop 7, so like you do 14 damage off four cards, which still is just barely above rate, right? So yeah, I think this definitely moves the needle a little bit. It at least makes people respect you. And like the last thing I'll say about this card, and obviously we have to see how it actually goes when people shuffle up and play with it, but you can play a lot of mind games with this card. Like you can hold cards and now they're like, okay, do I waste time blocking this card if he's just going to react it? You know what I mean? Now some players might just be like, whatever, I'm going to make you have it and not block. But
and then you have boots for that.
Yeah, exactly.
So you gain value off of Black Tech Whisperers.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
It's like the Razor Reflex issue with Katsu. It's like, do I just make you freaking have it? Or no, I'm okay, fine, I'll just pop Breeze Rider Boots. You know what I mean? So it's like it's actually like the same predicament people used to have with Breeze Rider Boots before Bonds, where it was like you threw out a 3-power Whelming Gust Wave and they're like, you have a Razor. Whatever, I'm not blocking 6. And you're like, I didn't have a Razor, but thanks, Breeze Rider Boots. So it's like,
I'm going to combo you anyway.
Yeah, it's I think it's a similar like bait sometimes. But yeah, we'll see. I think this card definitely raises Arachne probably like a tier level. He's still bad into the good decks, but I think overall it puts him in a spot where people are excited about him and want to play him, which is honestly the most important thing.
Because he's so much fun.
Yeah, now we gotta see how much this card's gonna cost. Hopefully, not a lot of people actually play Arachne, because I don't want to have to pay $90 for a playset of this card, but it might end up being. Which I wasn't gonna buy much of heavy hitters anyway. I was gonna see what cards I liked and then probably buy them, because I'm potentially doing like a move in that time frame too. So, but anyway, any closing thoughts from you, Wukey, before we get off here? Cool little hour stream.
No, I mean I'm excited to see where they take us. I'm gonna continue to have a lot of fun, and the hero I specialize in is getting more powerful. So who could not be happy about that?
Yeah, exactly. And I'm gonna have to go between this and Kasai. I'm honestly super excited about Kasai though.
Yeah.
Like she's one of my favorite Blitzers. So hopefully she's fun. And we're getting 6 heroes. Like I think
we're getting 6 heroes. Could be reprints, could not be reprints, could be young, could not be young.
Yeah, we'll see. I think they'll go the Outsiders route. That's my guess, because it's dual class, so 3 old heroes, 3 new, but we'll see. It's going to be fun regardless. But yeah, man, I appreciate it. Anyone else in the chat, thank y'all so much for hanging out. It was a quick stream just for fun. Don't want to take up most of Wukey's day, but we had like 50-some people in here, so it was really fun. Yeah. I got Armory tonight, but I'll probably be doing some stuff later. But thank you so much, man. I appreciate it. And thank you all out there. We'll see y'all next time.
Thank y'all. See ya.